If you're a motorcyclist, chances are you've had an interaction with a larger vehicle, a car, a truck, a semi, or whatever. And you know deep down inside that that person would not have done that if you were in a car or a truck or a semi. That ever happened to you? Because it happens to me all the time. And I think I know why. In this video, I wanted to talk about motorcycle safety and kind of, rather than give you specifics, I just want to talk about a mindset that I have and why I have it. And I want to go back to 1983. I want to tell you about my first motorcycle road wreck. Now, I had wrecked in the woods more times than I can remember. When I was on the road, I was always very careful. And, you know, as I've explained in another video, I was always taught to drive as if, or ride as if I'm invisible. And that, in fact, the other drivers are trying to hit me. And I've always done that. But in 1983, I was coming home from my girlfriend's house. It was summer. I was not geared up. I was wearing jeans and a t-shirt and a helmet. I was in a neighborhood. Speed limits were 30. I was definitely not doing more than maybe 35 miles an hour. And as I crested a hill, there was a road off to the right. So it was a T intersection, but this main thoroughfare had the right of way. Nobody was coming to the T, but as I crested the hill, I looked across and I could see a car had already crested their side of the hill and was a little bit closer to that road. So immediately, you know, I was on guard and I was looking at this driver and I was prepared to stop, but it appeared that they were slowing down. I could see through the windshield. I could see this woman looking at me. She definitely saw me. And as I watched her slow down, I looked at the front of her car and I could even see a little bit of a dip. And so it looked as though, you know, she had seen me. I know she saw me. But then she did what I never thought would happen. And that was she turned directly in front of me. I swerved to miss her. I ended up high-siding the bike. I missed her car. I don't know if my bike hit her car or not. But it did tumble over and landed on me. And we went down this, you know, sliding down the wrong way on the road. Unfortunately, nobody was coming up, and I, other than terrible road rash, I was pretty much okay. The police came. I was resisting an ambulance, although some people had brought out some towels and stuff to cover me up because I had some serious road rash. The police officer had taken the lady's account of the wreck and then came to me and asked me what happened. And I said, well, and I pretty much explained it just like I did to you, and said that, you know, I'd missed her car and everything. He said, well, no, she said that you hit her. And I said, well, no, I definitely didn't hit her. I don't think my bike did. I said, I came off my bike as I was going behind her. And, you know, I said the bike flipped and everything. And about that time, a neighbor had come up that had seen the whole thing. And he confirmed what had happened and said that didn't happen, that this woman had pulled out in front of this young man. And so the cop rewrote the accident report, placing me not at fault. Definitely the woman was at fault. And, you know, for the next couple of weeks, I was bandaged up. My motorcycle was wrecked, and I had time to let that sit in and what had happened. And it was probably the most impactful thing that had ever happened on a motorcycle to me to that point. Because even though I believed, you know, that when I ride like you're invisible, and I believed ride like everyone's trying to hit you, I didn't actually believe people were trying to hit me. But in going back through that whole wreck in my mind, that woman certainly appeared to want to hit me because I know she saw me. She was looking right at me. I know she had slowed down, and I know she stopped. And I know when she took off to turn in front of me, she was looking right at me. I know that for a fact. And so I had to come to grips with that. And it's something that I've been coming to grips with since 1978. Well, that would have been 1981 or 82. So yeah, for over 40 years, I've been trying to come to grips with that, and the realization of what it is that makes drivers not see motorcyclists. And spoiler alert, I'm sure there are wrecks where people really didn't see the motorcyclist. I know that happens, but I don't believe it's always that way. And I believe in most of the wrecks where people say, I never saw him, I'm not so sure about that. In fact, I'm going to go on record and say, I believe they did see us. I know that woman certainly saw me in 1982 or 83, whenever that was. And so, it took me years to come to kind of understand what it was that was happening. And it was, I was on the interstate once. I forgot where I was going. I was in a car, and I was, on the interstate. And for those of you who are in the United States, our interstate system there's no turnoffs, there's exits and stuff, but it's basically a high-speed thoroughfare where, the left lane is supposed to be the fastest lane. The right lane is the slowest lane. And a lot of trucks will travel in the right lane, but if they need to pass another truck, they'll get in the left lane. And so traffic should, have faster vehicles in the left lane and slower in the right. But what I began to notice when I was driving a lot in my 20s and 30s and 40s, I began to notice that people were acting weird around trucks, very large vehicles. And, it became very obvious that people who would be in the left lane doing, speed limits are 70, but let's face it, people do 85, 90 or whatever. But somebody could be doing 85 miles an hour in the left lane, completely clear. But if there is a truck over here in the right lane, maybe going up a hill and they're only doing 65, I found that a large percentage of people, maybe 90, maybe 95% of the people cannot and will not pass that truck at a constant speed. If they're 20 miles an hour or 25 miles an hour faster than that truck, they won't continue that speed. They have a clear right of way, but they'll slow down. And they'll slow down to within maybe 4 or 5 miles an hour and creep past that truck. And then when they're past it, they'll resume that speed. And I've seen this over and over and over. And it finally hit me years and years ago that there's something instinctual about us. Maybe it's like dogs. If you've ever given a dog a bath, the first thing they want to do is go out and roll in something dead or, something worse. They don't seem to like to smell like they do, and they don't know why they do it. But, I think I saw a show about that, and basically it's instinct. It's the hunting instinct in them. They want to smell like their environment. So I'm not sure that dogs know that they're doing that. And I believe the same holds true with people. When they're driving based, or they predicate threats based on size. And simply put, a larger vehicle is a threat that they need to show caution to, and a smaller vehicle is one that they do the opposite with. There's less caution because when they come up against a smaller vehicle, they're the larger vehicle, and they assume that there will be more caution coming from that other vehicle, and even if that other vehicle is a motorcycle with the right of way. And I believe that. And nothing will ever make me change that. And in fact, I've seen that in reality and in practice. And, you can go on the internet and see, all kinds of videos. I saw one video recently. It was one of those dash cam compilations where, people, they have conflict and, you know, altercations or whatever. And it was a very large pickup truck, an 8,000-pound diesel truck. And the guy was screaming at the driver, who had dash cam proof that that truck ran a stop sign and pulled out in front of him. But, you know, the guy's explanation was, you can't put, he goes, this is an 8,000-pound vehicle. You can't expect us just to stop and do what, you know, you gotta, you know, you gotta do what's right. And that's what people are doing when they're claiming they're not seeing us. I think they are seeing us, but I think instinctually they're yielding to that instinct to drive predicated on size. And so when I drive now, all of my effort, all of my thought is from their perspective. What are they thinking? And, you know, I'll get into this deeper in a future video, but, you know, my safety routine now is to one, I don't believe I ever have the right of way. Even when I do have the right of way, I don't ride like that. I ride as if everyone else does. And that is just a safety thing that is at the peak of my riding style now, because I've seen it way too much where people, they drive predicated on size. And so size matters. And if you drive like you're invisible and you drive like everyone is trying to hit you, you'll be safer. But it's because people drive predicated on size. It's not necessarily that they don't see you. I think they do. But that's just something I've noticed, and wanted to talk about that today.